Overthinking versus problem solving. Have you ever found yourself trapped in a loop of thoughts, feeling like you're trying to solve a problem, but you're going absolutely nowhere? You might believe you're analyzing the situation deeply, but instead, it feels like your mental wheels are spinning without traction. It's frustrating, exhausting, and mentally draining. Worst of all, you don't feel any closer to a real solution. This experience is incredibly common, and it's rooted in the difference between overthinking and problem solving. Understanding this difference is critical, not only for your mental well-being but also for your ability to make clear, confident decisions. Let's break it down. What is overthinking? Overthinking is when your mind becomes stuck in an endless loop of analyzing, worrying, and imagining hypothetical scenarios without moving toward any real solution. You might replay conversations in your head, dissect every detail, or mentally simulate what-if situations over and over. Often, this is an attempt to avoid mistakes or control outcomes, but ironically, it leads to more anxiety and emotional paralysis. Overthinking tends to be vague and unstructured. Focus on imagined outcomes or past mistakes. Trigger emotional exhaustion. Lead to indecision and self-doubt. Reinforce fear, uncertainty, and perfectionism. You end up mentally drained, more anxious, and stuck in place. No matter how much you think, you don't move forward. What is problem solving? In contrast, problem solving is a focused, structured approach aimed at addressing a real issue. It's not about controlling every possible outcome, it's about identifying the core of a problem, generating possible solutions, and taking concrete steps. Problem solving involves clearly identifying the problem, gathering necessary information, brainstorming options, taking action in steps, tracking progress over time. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's grounded in reality and driven by purpose. Even slow progress feels like real progress. How to tell if you're overthinking? Here are some signs you're caught in overthinking, not problem solving. You keep replaying the same scenarios in your mind without reaching a decision. You feel more anxious or stuck after thinking about a problem than before. Your thoughts revolve around what-if fears instead of actionable plans. You focus on imagined consequences rather than facts. You feel mentally exhausted but have nothing to show for it. If any of this sounds familiar, you're likely caught in the overthinking spiral. But why does this happen? The emotional drivers behind overthinking. 1. Fear and uncertainty. Fear is one of the most powerful fuels of overthinking. Fear of making the wrong decision. Fear of the unknown. Fear of what others might think. The need to avoid all possible mistakes leads to a mental paralysis known as analysis paralysis, where you're so overwhelmed by options that you end up doing nothing. People who have a low tolerance for uncertainty often struggle with overthinking. The more you feel a need to control the outcome, the more vulnerable you are to obsessive thought loops. 2. Emotional triggers. Past failures, perfectionism, and self-doubt can also intensify overthinking. If you've made a painful mistake in the past, you might overanalyze future decisions to avoid repeating it. If you're a perfectionist, you might ruminate over every detail, trying to eliminate all possible flaws. These emotional patterns distort your thinking. You're no longer solving a real problem, you're reacting to feelings instead of facts. How to shift from overthinking to problem solving. Here are 5 powerful strategies to help you make the shift. 1. Identify the root of your thoughts. Ask yourself, what am I really trying to solve here? Is this a real problem or just a hypothetical scenario? Overthinking is often vague. Pinpoint the specific issue. For example, if you're anxious about an upcoming presentation, is the problem your content, your delivery, or how people will perceive you? Break vague worries into specific, solvable issues. 2. Set a time limit on thinking. Give yourself 15 to 20 minutes to brainstorm possible solutions. Once the timer is up, shift to action mode. This prevents your thinking from spiraling into unproductive loops and encourages you to prioritize what really matters. If you don't reach a solution during that time, write down your progress and revisit it later with a fresh mind. 3. Challenge your thoughts. Ask yourself, what's the worst case scenario, and how likely is it? Is this thought based on facts or fear? Am I assuming a negative outcome without evidence? What's within my control right now? These questions anchor you in reality and help you separate emotional reasoning from logical reasoning. Practice grounding techniques. Overthinking drags your mind into the past or future. Grounding brings you back to the present moment, where you can think clearly and act deliberately. Try the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. Name 5 things you can see. 4 things you can touch. 3 things you can hear. 2 things you can smell. 1 thing you can taste. This technique helps interrupt the mental loop and reconnects you with your body and surroundings. Accept that you can't control everything. Sometimes, overthinking stems from the desire for absolute certainty. But life is unpredictable. Accepting that not everything can be controlled is a powerful mindset shift that reduces anxiety and opens the door to effective decision-making. Final thoughts. Overthinking and problem-solving are 2 very different mental processes. Overthinking keeps you stuck. Problem-solving moves you forward. When you can recognize the signs of overthinking, understand its emotional triggers, and apply clear strategies like time-limited thinking, emotional grounding, and rational questioning, you free yourself from mental paralysis and regain control of your life. Remember, the goal isn't to stop thinking altogether, it's to think in a way that leads to clarity, action, and peace of mind.